To kick off 2021, we welcome Todd Fitzgerald, Vice President, Cybersecurity Strategy, and Chairman of Cybersecurity Collaborative Executive Committee, to discuss a new custom podcast called CISO Stories, based on his best-selling book, CISO Compass. In the Leadership and Communications section, 6 Board of Directors security concerns every CISO should be prepared to address, 4 ways to improve the relationship between security and IT, the CISO Playbook, 3 steps to breaking in a new boss, and more. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly. Deepwatch provides innovative managed security services that empower organizations to be more resilient against today's evolving cyber threats. Deepwatch offers game-changing capabilities in managed detection and response, managed endpoint detection and response, and vulnerability management. All delivered through a unique squad model, a dedicated group of security experts that works directly with each client. From managed security operations to threat hunting to continuous measurement of security readiness, Deepwatch is advancing the service of managed security. Measure your SecOps maturity for free by visiting securityweekly.com/Deepwatch. Most breaches are caused by exploiting oversights in basic cybersecurity fundamentals, but complex hybrid multi-cloud infrastructures make cybersecurity hygiene challenging. Red Seal can help. It shows you what's on your network, how it's connected, and the associated risk across public cloud, private cloud, and physical environments. With Red Seal, you'll get control of your cybersecurity fundamentals so you can protect your organization from the inevitable attack vectors and reduce your cyber risk. For more information, visit securityweekly.com/Red Seal. As a security leader, CyberArray for Teams was built to make your job easier. Are you struggling to measure your team's skills proficiency, provide critical or relevant role-based training, or translate training investments into meaningful business outcomes? CyberArray for Teams is the industry's #1 NIST-aligned DoD 8140 and 8570 compliance certification and skills training platform. 96% of the Fortune 500 have employees training on CyberArray. CyberArray for Teams. Skills development solved. Visit cyberarray.it/solved to solve your training problems.
Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode number 201, recorded January 4th, 2021. It is a brand new year. I'm still your host, Matt Alderman, here in Colorado. Joining me from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island is my first co-host, Mr. Paul Asadorian.
I'm still Paul Asadorian. Hey, welcome everyone.
Yeah. And we still have Jason Albuquerque. He's just remote today.
And I'm still Jason Albuquerque, and I've made it 100 episodes officially. So happy New Year,
Yay.
Happy 2021, happy 100 episodes.
It's a new year. We've already got some new exciting stuff happening. The Browns finally made the playoffs in 18 years. Brady got Tampa Bay back to the playoffs. Ohio State finally beat Clemson after 0-4. I mean, come on. The year's already started off well.
The first time in a long time the Patriots haven't made the playoffs, you know?
We didn't even win the division. It was just, why bother watching? It's painful. It's painful to watch.
Well, some exciting news. I guess not all good yet. Do you want to stay in the loop on all things Security Weekly? Visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to your on your favorite podcast catcher or your YouTube channel. Sign up for our mailing list and join our Discord server. I'm out of practice, folks. Also, if you missed Security Weekly Unlocked, you can now access all the content on demand, whether you register before the live event or not, by visiting securityweekly.com/unlocked. You can click either the button to register or the button to log in if you've already registered to watch that great event at the end of last year. Todd Fitzgerald has built information security programs for 20 years. Todd serves as Vice President, Cybersecurity Strategy, and Chairman of the Cybersecurity Collaborative Executive Committee. Was named 2016-2017 Chicago CISO of the Year, ranked top 50 information security executive, authored 4 books, including the #1 best-selling and 2020 Canon Hall of Fame winner, CISO Compass, Navigating Cybersecurity Leadership, Challenges with Insights from Pioneers. Todd held senior leadership positions at Northern Trust, Grant Thornton, Manpower Group, WellPoint, also Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, the National Government Services, Zeneca, Syngenta, IMS Health, and American Airlines. That's a lot, Todd, but welcome back to Business Security Weekly.
It's great to start the year out with you. It's wonderful.
We had you on about 18 months ago to talk about your book, CISO Compass. And it's interesting, after the acquisition of Security Weekly by Cyber Risk Alliance, you have been working with the Cybersecurity Collaborative on that side. And we got together and created this custom podcast series called CISO Stories. And it's a lot of the work that you did on the book, CISO Compass, paired with our production capabilities on the Security Weekly side to come up with this new podcast. So I thought, what a better way to kick off 2021 than to talk about the new custom podcast series.
I am super excited about it. I mean, I think it's great that, this is what collaboration is really all about, is taking people that know pieces that you don't know and combining that with pieces that other people know and making something better. And I'm just totally excited about it.
So when you were, as you were going through writing the book, which is 2019. So it's a little over a year old, I think now, roughly. Mm-hmm. Are these interviews that you did while you were writing the book, or are these interviews you did after you wrote the book? How did these interviews come to be?
Well, it's interesting. So I didn't just want a book that was like a collection of interviews or case studies or things that people had written, because, and I've seen books like that, and I wanted something different, because when you have a book that's a collection of stories, it doesn't really help guide a person into leading cybersecurity for the organization. So I wanted two things out of the book. The first was a roadmap. What is it that a CISO needs to do? So I took all those issues that we deal with as CISOs, whether it's building a strategy or looking at what the emerging trends are, or building the policies and procedures of your organization, looking at incidents, and how they're impactful, or talking to the board, all those different issues. And I put them into a structure that is like the business of the CISO, that a CISO could grab onto, experienced and current CISOs, new CISOs, all could benefit from this. So I wanted the roadmap. It's kind of like, what do you do as a CISO for this job? So I wanted to write that roadmap. But I thought it would be much more powerful if we infused into that the stories, the actionable stories from real CISOs and cybersecurity leaders into the book. And so there's actually 80 different gray boxes inside the book. So as I'm talking about a topic, I will have then a gray box that is written by a CISO or a cybersecurity leader on that particular topic, and that goes into, exactly what did they do, what was their situation, what did they do about it, kind of like that job interview. What was the result? What would they do differently? And that's what makes this literature very powerful.
Now, are the interviews then to kind of double click on those gray boxes and bring that written content to life through an interview style? We listened to the first one as we've been producing it. It's with Michelle Kwan talking about, certain things you shouldn't do at the board level. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but is the thought here that you take those gray boxes, we do an interview with that person, and really bring that written content to life through the audio podcast?
Absolutely. That's dead on what it does. And so, you only have, I only gave them between 1 to 3 pages in the book of text, and it's a challenge to condense down a whole situation into that many words, but it needed to be impactful. And so they condensed it down into that small piece. But then, with the podcast, now we can take that and take 20, 25 minutes. That's all. Take 20, 25 minutes and take that topic and dive down deeper and get into the insights. It's kind of like getting into the CISO's head when they wrote that. Let's get a little bit deeper now. And so we're giving that depth to that piece that they wrote.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because, on this show, we try to bring a CISO on every month just to kind of get a broad overview and some high-level guidance, right? We don't go that deep on this podcast, or we haven't gone necessarily that deep with some of the CISOs. This gives a little different perspective. You get a little deeper dive with the CISO on a specific topic that then correlates back to your roadmap. So any CISO or aspiring CISO, probably more apt, is now they've got this kind of written content, and they can go out and listen to the interview, get a little more context and a little more depth around it to really help guide them on their journey through the CISO leadership career ladder, I guess, better way to say it.
Yeah, and the thing I found, it lends well to one of the sections in the book, right? I mean, I've read CISO Compass, and one of the sections is about information sharing, right? And this is another avenue to share information between CISOs because it's so important. Especially, what I find a big challenge for me is information sharing amongst like organizations, or shall I say competitors. That makes it tough sometimes because it puts you in an awkward position where not everybody feels like they should be sharing information with a competitor or someone within that same vertical, right? And this offers a medium to make a CISO comfortable to tell their stories. And through those stories, other CISOs can learn.
Yeah, and it's really what we do inside the Cybersecurity Collaborative as well, is we share amongst CISOs. And so, but when you're and those are great communities that we should be getting together and having task forces and doing that sort of thing. But we all in our day, if we think about our day, we're engaged with organizations and we share information and we take information. But then there's also the time when, in normal times when we're going home and we want to listen to that podcast. We want to just get that snippet of information, or there's a topic that you just want the insight from that CISO at 20, 25 minutes. And where can you get that? I mean, this actually gives you access to CISOs that you may not have that hallway conversation with about a particular topic. And the thing that I found is each of these CISOs was more than willing to share their knowledge. It's an incredible community. And these are people that are leading some of our largest organizations in the world.
Yeah, when you think about the Cybersecurity Collaborative, right, that is a members environment where CISOs can collaborate. But if you're not part of that, how do you get that same experience? How do you get that same knowledge sharing, right? This is a way to do it now. You take the book, pair it with the podcast, and now any CISO, regardless of whether you're part of the CSC or not, can actually gain access and gain insight from some of these leading CISOs, which I think is really interesting because it's hard to get time with some of these folks. And if we can get this recorded, you take the Jim Rouse of the world who's been involved with us in the CSC, some of these other CISOs, you can't get their time. I've tried to get Jim on the show multiple times. He doesn't have time.
Yeah, and Jim wrote an excellent piece for the book. He wrote what they did when he was at Aetna. They had taken and they were doing some orchestration and creating these models, and I gave Jim 3 pages in the book because it was he goes through exactly what they did and what their strategy was, and of course he had to have all that approved by external communications. I mean, that's that's how committed the community is to sharing this sort of information. But he was more than open with that to be able to do that, and we have so many others in here too. I mean, I have a person that not just CISOs, but it's also other cybersecurity leaders and privacy leaders, and some that are CEOs of companies. One individual for example, was the CEO of of LabMD that fought the FTC, and after a breach and won. And he goes into 25 minutes and explains the dealings with the FTC and how to choose a lawyer when you're in that kind of situation. Where would you get that kind of insight, just off the street?
Yeah,
Todd,
right.
Todd, what was your favorite story? I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, I get asked that. There are literally so many. It really would be tough to that. I think one that sticks out though is Dan Lorman had a story that when he was at the University of, or that he was the CISO for the state of Michigan, and he was in a meeting and they wanted to have Wi-Fi. This was several years back when Wi-Fi was relatively new in office environments. And he said, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. There's all these security risks with Wi-Fi. There's no way we can adequately secure it. And the CIO took him aside and said, well, why is it there are some organizations out there that do have Wi-Fi in their offices? And she told him, said, if you want to be the CISO for the state of Michigan, you will figure out how to implement Wi-Fi. And for him, that was kind of a light bulb moment of, I guess I can't just say no to this. I guess my real job as a CISO is to understand really what the business wants. And so we talk about that. We talk about that I love this story because we talk about things like that. Oh, you need to be a business enabler. But what does that really mean? When you're pulled aside and you're told, if you can't figure out how to get Wi-Fi in, you're not going to be the CISO. He had to figure it out. And he had to engage those people that knew how to do it, and that's what makes a really good CISO is
it's like,
understanding.
You gotta take everyone swimming, and not everyone knows how to swim, and no one can drown. It's I was in a very similar spot with Wi-Fi back in the day. I think fortunately on that subject, the standards have gotten a lot better. I mean, we seem to want to forget WEP, and I can't blame you for wanting to forget it, right? But we're in a much better place now, and standards-wise, not perfect, but much better.
Yeah, I mean, in today's world, with everybody implementing all these new technologies so fast, CISOs are put into that type of a scenario every day, where they're in a position where leadership says we have a business problem that has to be solved, must, and it must be secure. So make it happen, right? So we're put in those positions where if you're ingrained in the business, you're part of that solution set. Because if you're not in that position, it's just going to become shadow IT, and they're going to do it without you, right? So or like Todd mentioned, you may not have a job, right? So at the end of the day, we have to be part of the solution.
So did your CIO come to you, Jason, and say we have to run SolarWinds Orion, figure out how to make it happen?
Well, luckily for me, I am the CIO, and we want no part of it. So I'm the CIO and CISO. That's the benefit.
Jason just said that none of our crown jewels are running under the Orion environment, right? So we're good.
That was a very easy question to answer for us.
Yeah, that's good, right? But I think those stories, for me, it's kind of like a guide, and maybe you've experienced some of those things that have been told in the stories. Maybe you're dealing with some of them right now, but there's also other ones that you haven't dealt with yet that might be in those stories. So by listening to them, you can go, well, here's how they dealt with that mental bookmark. When you're put into that situation, now you've got some experience to draw on. That's what I really like and appreciate about the book and the series, Todd.
Thank you for that. And I've had several people tell me they want to go back and use this as a reference, and that, because they realize exactly that they may not be dealing with that issue now, but, 6 months down the line, maybe they're implementing an identity access management system. And so they can go back to the book, they can find somebody that wrote about that and about how they failed at it. Because this is the other piece. It's not just successes that people have written about. people write about those failures, and because we tend to learn more from those failures.
Agreed.
Yeah, especially
and it's powerful to be able to have those real life stories when you're trying to pitch a solution or give reasons why we shouldn't be going down a certain path, right? I mean, the CEO of our organization is much more open to hearing real life stories, right? Give me an example. That I hear that all the time, and other C-suite members are the same way, right? Because they're not technologists in many cases, they're not security professionals in many cases. So to be able to bring that real life story to the table is huge.
Yeah, Jason, you're spot on it, because when I talk to people, right, and you say, well, like this could happen, like the SolarWinds thing, like that could happen. We as technologists, we're
the next question is how.
Yeah, but we're like, oh, well,
how.
That's happened in the past. Like the supply chain for software has been poisoned. In fact, it happened to Microsoft. Like we know all that, but when you're an executive, it's our job to know all of that, right? It's not their job to know all of that, and so they want an example. So, sorry, Todd.
Yeah, and I was just thinking of the example of another writer in the book who wrote about their experience with Petya, the ransomware attacks of a couple of years ago. And how he talks about and talks about it in the podcast that you show up and now you've been told that in 45 minutes 10,000 of your servers have been encrypted. Now what do you do? Those are real life scenarios, and so the guidance that comes out of that is to how do you get yourself out of that? How do you prepare yourself for the next time? Those are kind of insights from people that have been there. And then you also have the insights of people that I also reached out to some people that were instrumental in writing a lot of the standards that we have today. For example, the people that created the Cloud Security Alliance controls. I reached out to them. The people that created the NIST cybersecurity framework, they're in the book. The person, Ann Kavukian, who created Privacy by Design, she wrote about Privacy by Design. So we get the perspectives of the people that were leading the charge and start to understand why they did the things that they did and why those things are important.
Yeah, and what worked and what didn't. Because of Todd, if I think about the environment we're in right now, there is a lot of business shift and change in focus and strategy. And if you're a CISO in the financials, for example, that's never delved into the cloud because everything's been on-prem, and now all of a sudden you need to start moving to cloud, the Cloud Security Alliance control checklist might be a really good piece that you want to catch up or learn about, because these are the things that I think a lot of CISOs are in the midst of right now, and I think will continue well into 2021 as the business environment changes.
Absolutely, and it's that I think I used one quote in there that it's there really is nothing new in the world. If we just go back and look in history. So, things get repackaged in different ways, and we experience them in different ways. But, we had one person who was responsible for one of the major credit card companies in the book wrote about digital transformation, and how important that was. Well, I think this year we saw a huge amount of digital transformation and much faster than a lot of companies wanted to experience.
Yeah, for sure. Todd, I know I should know this number. Is it 30 interviews that are already recorded? How many are in the initial release for the CISO Stories?
Yeah, we have about 30 right now, and I have commitments. The other ones we're doing them every month, and I would expect that most of the contributors to the book will be in there. And then we're also adding in interviews. Sam Curry is doing a lot of interviews, and we'll be leveraging those as well. So I think we will have a really good mix. Really excited about this to put the voice to these words.
Yeah. We are producing it, so as part of that timetable is on us. But the ability for us to be able to bring this content together, get it out to the rest of the community, I think is a great service, and will enhance kind of people who have read the book to really take the words and put it into audio so they can hear the story themselves.
Yeah, agreed. I'm definitely looking forward to listening to some of those podcasts because again, I read the book, but hearing it from the source will be great.
That's great. I think collaboration is really what it's all about. It makes us all stronger, and all the communities that we can be engaged in. I think it just makes it that much more powerful.
Absolutely. Todd, thank you so much for joining us on Business Security Weekly. I know you're overseas, so it's a little late for you, but thanks for joining us today.
No problem. It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Welcome. We're going to take a quick break and then cover the leadership and communications articles for this week.